Yep.
Yes, amazing. Okay, good evening, everyone. Let me just check if the YouTube thing is working. YouTube thing is working. It's working. Amazing. Cool. Super cool. So, welcome to the MCP Open Space.
Non ti esce chi lo chiede. Ok. L'ha registrato, ti esce solo la persona che lascia il libro.
Alessandro, can you mute your microphone, please?
Che è la persona che sta mollando il libro.
Okay, amazing. So, good evening, everyone, from me and Mauro. Hope you're doing fine. I know that some of the Italians are enjoying this 10 p.m. Friday night occasion together, but it's super nice. There is two ways that you can follow the chat, which is through the Hangouts or through the YouTube link. In general, if you have any questions, I highly recommend that we first go through the presentation and then we go to the questions later, so it's easier for me and Mauro to follow the questions flow. Cool. So I will just now share the screen, so you will see some more beautiful things in my and Mauro's face. Okay, just give me a moment, and we start. Choose the wrong screen. Okay, so now you should be seeing the FPPT from the Open Space. So just a quick introduction for those of you that maybe do not know us. My name is Dusan. I'm MCP elect and current MCP device in Italy, and with me here is Mauro, who is current MCP device in Italy. And see. So in this chat, which is like our side is going to last maybe 30 to 45 minutes, and we'll have time for questions. We will go through four main things. First one is defining a bit better the context of ICT in Italy in terms of history, current state, and some important informations about the entities you need to know. Second, going through the plan of MC Lego, so like understanding what are the main things that the current generation is battling for, and what are the main challenges we decided to act upon. And we will be talking a bit about the context of the next year and what are the main directions that I am envisioning for the term 18-19. And then in the end, a bit about the context of being MC in Italy, what does it mean, and what are the conditions. So without further ado, we can start with the context. So I will give word to Mauro.
Okay, guys. Hi. Hope everything is very well for you. We're going to go briefly into what has been happening in ISEC in Italy in the past years, so that you as candidates can understand the bigger picture of the organization and can understand actually what has been done in the past to make ISEC in Italy what it is in this moment. Okay. So in this first slide, you can see operational results of ISEC in Italy in the past 5 terms. Okay. So you will start with, this is based on realizations because approvals are not trackable since 13-14 basically. So in this image, you can see by product what it has been actually the development of ISEC in Italy in the last 5 years. I'm going to go briefly product by product so you understand. Okay, so the first one is IGV, that is the green one. Okay, so IGV, as you can see, had a very big peak at the beginning in the term 12-13. And it was basically because ISEC in Italy was one of the pioneer entities globally to actually run IGV. And it was one of the few entities in Europe that it was running IGV massively. What was the problem? That IGV was not sustainable. Okay, so IGV was basically being sustained by OGV incomes, and that was putting into a lot of risk many of the LCs. So in that year, the MC decided to stop running IGV sustainably, and as you can see in the year 13-14 and 14-15, IGV starts dropping a little bit as a product. Then, however, ISEC in Italy learned how to sell IGV very sustainably, and now we're in a very positive growth curve, let's say, for the IGV product, in which nowadays, as MC 16-17 and 17-18, we're actually growing a lot in IGV. Okay? So that's a very positive thing because IGV in Italy is, I think, a very good product in the sense that we're doing massively IGV and we're doing it sustainably, which is a very good balance of what a product should be run by. Then you have the second product that is OGV. As you can see, OGV is a very unstable product, and it's perhaps the product that goes in a more roller coaster mode. OGV started to grow in the term 13-14. It grew actually a lot. It passed from 437 to almost 600 exchanges. Then it continued, let's say, not a huge growth, but a stable growth of 630 exchanges, but then dropped massively in 470 exchanges. What is the consequence that you have to understand also in this drop of OGV exchanges is that when an entity such as Italy, for example, drops massively in OGV or in OGX in general, the finances can be really affected of the entity. Okay, so when we dropped from 630 to 470 realizations in OGV, the entity started suffering a lot. Then last year, again in the MC Atlas term, we managed to grow again in the product for the last 2 years. It was a very good year in terms of OGV, and for the first time in 3 years, we grew in the product, and that was very positive. Then we have the OGT product that actually had a very big growth after the 13-14 term. Most of that growth has to do with the fact that most LCs started to have an OGT position in their LCs. So in the term 14-15 of the EMS, so the year 2014-2015 LC-wise, is when actually all of the LCs of Isaac in Italy started to have a VP OGT in their structure. Before they didn't have, they had an OGX VP. That led actually products to be managed in the best way possible from an LC side. And also they had the opportunity to send many of the EPs to Shape Colombia. That was a project run by Isaac in Colombia that was opening around 200 opportunities on a yearly basis. And Italy was one of the main providers with Isaac in Russia. So of course, with this added structure in LC level and with the fact that Shape Colombia was providing a lot of opportunities, Isaac in Italy grew a lot. And actually, Isaac in Italy became one of the top providers of GT globally because of this. Then in the term 15-16, the entity grew again. But after this, the entity dropped. So in term 16-17, in the MC Atlas, OGT product dropped. Just for you to know, OGT as a product has been dropping in almost all the world. As a product per se, if you calculate the total, it's a product that is decreasing. And it's quite a complicated product, but I think it's also in the way that we're managing that we're not managing good enough. And we need to make sure that all the LCs are trying to fulfill the needs of the customer in terms of OGT. And then we have OGE as a product. So OGE was opened in the year 2014 globally, but it was actually starting officially as a product in the 2015 term. So if you see in the 14-15 term, we only did 2 OGEs. In the 15-16, we started to have more results in terms of OGE. We had 26. And last year in the MC Atlas, at the beginning of the term, let's say, we had a very good result in terms of OGE. So we grew a lot in terms of OGE, and we were like one of the top performers in Europe in terms of OGE. However, this year we have a drop in OGE, and it's very interesting because last year we were not focusing that much in OGE. We grew a lot. Wait, I won't say it. And this year as we are focusing a lot in that, actually, we're not growing. So it's very interesting to understand why of this product, but it's let's say it's a product that we are really not very sure of in general terms. Click. Then we have year by year what was happening. I actually already explained most of these things. So basically, I will explain you like basic things in terms of what happened organizationally speaking. The year 2013 was a year of growth in general of the entity. And after the year of 2013, the entity got stuck in many things. There's a huge stagnation in terms of product delivery from Isaac in Italy. So after 2013, let's say there was a positive growth for the entity. 2014, 2015, and 2016 was not that very positive for the entity in general, especially in OGV. Okay, OGV was dropping as a product, and it was actually leading the entity to have less incomes, which then goes to another analysis that is the financial state of Isaac in Italy. The financial state of Isaac in Italy in the years 2014, 2015, and 2016 was not the best. At also like getting into a position in which we couldn't even pay AIP because of the way that we were managing. Then there was some changes in the financial model, and then we brought a little bit of balance to the entity. In the MC Lego and the MC Atlas last year, we changed the financial model, we changed the pricing of the product, and we grew in OGX. So that led to more stabilization in terms of finances. In terms of talent management, there always has been a problem of retention, and there always has been a problem of capacity in general in ISEC in Italy. That's something that we need to take into consideration when we're trying to figure out a strategy. ISEC in Italy has always suffered by talent attraction and talent retention, and that has been always like a problem. One of the key things that we did in 2016 as an MC, let's say strategically speaking, is that we introduced 4D XSR methodology of execution that still we're using in many of the LCs and in the MC platforms. Okay. Then ISEC in Italy entered the overview. Right now, ISEC in Italy has 19 LCs. LCs that are, let's say, local committees that have the right to vote and represent themselves as an official LC. Are ISEC in Ancona, ISEC in Bari, ISEC in Bologna, ISEC in Brescia, ISEC in Catania, Genova, Milano, Napoli Partenope, Napoli Federico II, Padova, Palermo, Pavia, Roma Sapienza, Roma 3, Torino, Trento, Trieste, Verona, and Venezia. Then we have 9 expansions with the possibility of opening as an LC. And we're really focusing a lot since last year as an MC and this year also to focus a lot on growing and opening new markets so we can grow in our products. The 9 expansions are Cagliari, Enna, Ferrara, Firenze, Milano Statale, Modena, Polito, Roma Tor Vergata, and Sima. 16 out of 19 LCs grew in the last semester, so it's a quite positive thing. I think one of the tendencies that we're having in the entities that LCs are really having a good growth in general. And LCPs are also very prepared as profiles, so that makes us actually execute much easier what we need to do. Okay, this is ISEC in Italy membership month by month. So if you see the goal that we have of talent capacity for ISEC in Italy is 672, and the maximum that we've had is 77% of capacity, which was 519. That's the maximum amount of members that we've had. And why am I saying this? Because it's always an issue for ISEC in Italy. Talent capacity is always an issue. One of the main things that we're struggling a lot is that still LCs are basing their strategies on only the university calendar. But they're not understanding that actually we need to detach a little bit from the university calendar and try to understand how to make sure that we are fulfilling our talent capacity without depending on university timelines. If we keep on depending by university timelines, unfortunately for Italy as a country, university timelines are very fucked up. And we're never going to be, let's say, ensuring full talent capacity if we continue working with us. LCPs are very aware. We already have a strategy in place to try to solve this. But just for you to know, ISEC in Italy membership is always an issue. It's always an issue. We get to positions in which we have very few talent capacity. And this is a graph comparing 16-17 and 17-18. 17-18 is the red bar, and 16-17 is the blue bar. As you can see, we tried to get the peak of recruitment earlier. So if you see the peak of the red line is in October, and last year was in November. So we're trying to get people earlier. So even if the good thing about this is that yes, LCs are actually listening to the MC recommendation. And actually this year we have a much stable management of the talent. So if you see, we had a peak in October, and we're not losing that much people that fast, because last year we had a peak in November and we lost a lot of people in December. So this is just an example of how we can start pushing members or LCs to have membership before and ensuring a talent capacity in a much more, say, holistic and healthy way. Okay, this is ISEC in Italy global ranking of approvals in this term. So ISEC in Italy is right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, sorry, very stupid with me. Top 11 in terms of approvals in total amount of exchange, which is very good. Last year we were top 16, so ISEC in Italy is actually making a huge effort to improve their position in the global ranking in terms of exchange. Entities such as Germany, Romania, Poland, Morocco were always top performing, were performing more than us as an entity. And this year we're really making a huge improvement in terms of what we are as a network, especially in the IGV performance. As you can see, we're top 6 IGV right now globally, which puts us in a very, very good position in terms of how ISEC in Italy is contributing to the global plenary. And if you see, is the first European country in the list, so it's actually very, very good. In terms of OGV, we're top 14. For sure, there's a lot of improvement points that we can have in OGV. Our market is good, and we can actually do much more things. Still, we're growing in OGV as an entity compared to last year, which had also a growth compared to last year, so it's positive, the growth. But in terms of capacity, in terms of potential, we can do much better. And then in OGT, we're top 10 OGT globally. We used to be much more relevant, to be honest. So it's cool that we're top 10, but we used to be top 6 globally. So it's one of the things that we can actually improve in terms of OGT, because yes, OGT is dropping globally, and all of the entities that are on top of us are actually kind of dropping, most of them. But that doesn't mean that we still can contribute a little bit more and start to try to promote the product in the best way possible. OGE we're not putting in the ranking because we're not even top 15. And as I told you before, OGE is a product that we need to understand better how to manage because we're not having very good results in it. Okay.
So just a note, because we didn't mention it from the beginning, but ISEC in Italy does not run IGT and IGE for the reasons of legalities, in the sense that in order to run those products, we need to have a different legal status as association in the country. So the only IGT that we are running is the delivery of global partnerships, and we are not running the products. We do not have our HR in the products, etc.
Then I'm going to explain to you like what has been the plan of the previous MCs of ISEC in Italy and what's the current plan of the MC Lego that's 17-18 generation. So as I was telling you, the MC Heat was the MC in the generation 15-16. The MCP was Luis Cardo Urso. There was 1,443 realizations. In that year, the entity managed to grow 3 realizations compared to the 14-15 generation. That was the MC Warp that we don't have here. And then the MC Atlas that was last year with the MCP Benedetta Turin did 1,752 realizations. And I'm going to show you like what was the vision behind the MCs. So MC Heat, as I was telling you, was the generation 15-16. They had this, let's say, vision that was shape, innovate, connect, move Italy forward. Click. Okay, I can tell you a little bit back. Basically, what the MC Heat were trying to do was a lot to connect the network in many ways and innovate in terms of products. And they were pushing a lot innovation. And the MC in that year started to have a bigger structure compared to last year's. So it was the first time that the MC opened a bigger ER department, for example, a BD department, let's say. It opened also OD director position. It opened certain positions that made the MC grow in general. And I think that also enabled the entity to grow for next year's. Okay. Then we have the MC Atlas. The vision of the MC Atlas was we spark a movement that unlocks lasting growth by delivering 2,350 leadership experiences. There was 3, let's say, pillars of the plan. That was mighty ISEC, massive ISEC, and hungry ISEC. And the goals were 1,200 IGV, 800 OGV, and 350 OGT. And there was this phrase at the end that was, we do it for Italy, why don't we make it? To make sure that people were understanding very clear what was the purpose behind running ISEC in this country. It was this phrase is very attached to the concept of making Italy. That is the concept of, okay, you're doing ISEC in the country, but why are you doing ISEC in the country? And we believe that we're doing ISEC in Italy because Italy as a country needs better leadership. Italy as a country needs people that lead through the uncertainty that the country is passing. That's very important to understand at the end, because an entity with a very clear purpose, it's an entity that can actually do much more impact to the country. Cool. Then we have the MC Lego plan. I'm not going to go into detail, but our vision as an MC is, as an entity at the end, is act fast, make it significant, and do it with purpose, ready for 2,300 exchange. What does it mean? Act fast in the sense of if we really want to make a difference, if we really want to grow in exchange, we need to be fast. One of the things that we had as an issue in ISEC in Italy is that we were saying like, no, the timing of my university doesn't work, I'm very special, whatever. And there was a lot of excuses behind. So we really wanted to give this new perception of, okay, if we really want to make things different, we need to act fast, we need to approve fast, we need to open fast, we need to reply to emails, we need to do our work on a fast way. Then we need to make it significant. If you're really going to spend time here, you really might as well do things in the best way possible. And do it with purpose is understanding, okay, what we do in ISEC actually makes a huge impact to the country. But we need to never to forget that. And then our goal is 2,300 realizations. Okay, this is like the plan structure. We have the vision that I already explained, and then the plan is divided into 2 elements: strategy and culture. This is the strategy part that is actually based on a methodology that, in my opinion, you should all be very aware of, that it's 4DX, the 4 disciplines of execution. All of our work that we have been done in the past 2 years in ISEC in Italy has been structured by this methodology. This plan is completely based on this methodology. We which has first organizational weeks that are the most important goals of ISAC in this year. So for this semester, because this is the replan that I'm showing to you, for this semester, the goals of ISAC in Italy are doing 1,590 approvals. We need to make sure that we are the conversion rate from finished to experience to complete experiences is by 50% on total amount of exchanges, and 66% of blue LCs. That is basically a concept that we're trying to embed on LC management and more TXP nodes, and 90% of budget execution by the 31st of July. Then each one of the weeks of the, let's say, goals, the targets that we have, has sub-weeks. So we have IGV sub-week, OGV sub-week, OGT, OGE, and then we're trying to push a lot LC's plan to be executed, expansions to happen, visitors in terms of promotion of our product, and approvals in new markets for our products, so especially for OGX. And then this is just going into detail. You can check this later because basically each one of these weeks has a very detailed plan in terms of battles. So you have, for example, if you're going to do 642 approvals this semester, how are we going to do it? So each one of our weeks or goals, let's say, has very clear battles in the things that we want to focus as an entity for us to achieve our goals. You can check that later because it doesn't make sense that I go through them. But basically each one of the sub-weeks has very clear battles and very clear measurables of what we have to do in order to achieve our goals. Then we have 50% conversion rate from finished experiences complete, which is the same. And each sub-week has like a specific percentage. So 50% conversion of OGV, 70% conversion of IGV. That is like historically the percentage that is best for us as an entity. 25% conversion rate in OGT and 60% conversion as OG. Just one disclaimer there. These percentages are still not completely, let's say, objective and rationally determined, because there's not enough data to understand if it's a tendency or not. Okay, so just based on the results that we had on the first semester, we tried to change a little bit the percentages. Cool. Then we have 66% of blue LCs by 31st of July. What does it mean, blue LCs? It means 80% of blue LC culture checklist execute. So we have a culture checklist, and the LCs have to execute 80% of that culture checklist. Then talent capacity from 66% to 80%, and 70% average of blue members. Okay, so all of these things have again very clear battles.
And then if you have followed the Open Space yesterday, you could have understood better about the culture and the blue members, especially, which are the concepts that you may, especially if you're not coming from ISAC Italy, may not be that familiar, but it's very important that you understand them better during this.
So then at the end, we have the 90% budget execution, which we are embedding also the goals of the external department, 26K ER revenues coming from new sales, 100% LC's investment plan and achieved at minimum 90%, MC expenses plan achieved 90%, and all LC's achieving 90% revenues of their goals. Then these are the battles, and that's it. Then in terms of culture, we have three concepts that are very important. We have purpose, that is defined in Make in Italy. That was what I was explaining before. How does actually what we do in terms of change shape what we do in Italy as a country? Discipline, that is embedding the methodology of 4DX into all the things that we do of operations. And then having very clear who we are as ISACers and understanding that values are key if we really want to shape Italy as a country and we really want to make a difference in terms of our term for ISAC.
Okay, so this is, thank you, Mauro. This was mainly about the current context. So what is ISAC Italy facing right now? And why for me it was very important that first we understand very well the current context is because what is the direction that I envision for ISAC Italy for the next year is not much different and not, let's say, it is very connected to what is happening in the organization right now. The organization, as you could see, the organization is on the growth path and it is evolving a lot since 2 years. And this is just part of the process of the evolution of the organization. So the next steps need to be clearly connected with the context that we are having in the organization right now. And this is mainly where the direction that I envision for the entity is coming from. So the direction that I see for the entity is mainly divided in these three parts, which is how can we build a proud ISAC, which is going to have members that are proud to be part of the organization, that is going to be creating a proud customers, and that is going to be a proud of the organization and the structure in the organization that we have. And then speaking about each of them, you will for sure have much more in details explained everything inside the application and inside the strategic speech, which are both uploaded in the folder for applicants. So you can actually there check much more in details what have been the things that I have been talking about. But I just want here to highlight some of the main contributions that I expect to happen in the next year. So speaking about membership, one thing that Mauro was highlighting and that is very important is understanding what is the capacity that we have as the organization. And if we really want to continue making a positive impact for the country and continue expanding the impact that we are having, we need to understand how can we ensure that we are having a bigger capacity inside the organization. But bigger capacity inside the organization is not only having more members, it is having more members, but also understanding how can we utilize the role of those members in a better way. So it has a lot to do with the work of OD and OD department, and especially TXP in terms of like what is the talent capacity that we have, but also what is the education training that we are providing for the members, and then especially what is the culture that we are creating inside the organization. How are we breaking the mindsets, and how are we ensuring that our members are the ones that are actually driving us to achievement of our goal. The second one is speaking about proud customers is more about how can we make sure that we are delivering more exchange experiences, because in the end of the day, this is what is our role as the organization for the society, creating positive impact through exchange. So it is a lot about understanding what is the right product strategy that we need to have in order to unlock every product. So as you saw, IGV is right now the product that we are for sure proudest of in terms of the volume that we are running, but we have a lot of potential to do more than we are doing right now. And then talking about other products, like there is understanding how can we continue the trend of growth in OGV, and how can we understand better, speed up the processes, unlock new markets, so we can actually scale up the OGV, and then understanding how do we reverse the trend of OGT, and how do we position OG in the market. But that has a lot to do with not only the front office strategies, but also what kind of back office support do we need to get to execute those operations. So speaking about back office support, that this direction has a lot to do with the role that ER department needs to play towards making ICT in Italy proud organization, which is like how can we enable more opportunities for young people from Italy to go abroad, or from people from all over the world to come to Italy through partnerships and collaborations that we are building, and has a lot to do with how are we structuring our marketing strategy. So proud customers is a lot also about what kind of digital evolutions do we need to have in our processes and in our marketing, especially how do we increase the know-how of our marketing in order to ensure that we are able to reach more people. And then as I was talking, it is a lot also about understanding what is the right product strategy for each of the products. So how do we increase retention of stakeholders in IGV? How do we ensure that we are reaching the right markets in OGV and speeding up the process? How are we increasing the sales culture and EP management in all of the OGX products, etc., etc., etc. And then last but definitely not least is about how do we use the resources that we have inside the organization. So if we have the capacity of members, we have the right membership, and then we have the right product strategy and support for the products to grow, what is thing that is missing is the right resources utilization. So as you saw, we have 19 LCs and 9 expansions right now. And in Italy as a country actually has potential to be having the right contribution, the bigger contribution from each of the parts of the organization. And this is something that is not happening right now. So one thing that ICT in Italy has been experiencing together with the growth in the last few years is that the gap inside the organization has never been big in terms of like the entities which have higher capacity to execute, not only speaking about talent capacity, but also about the processes, the management structure, the financial capacity, and the LCs that have leveled up their capacity and their contribution. And the important context of the next year is how do we put everybody on the same page, and how do we ensure that every part of the organization is growing together. And then it is a lot about how do we give right continuity to the expansion strategy. So like in 16-17, actually, we were starting this expansion strategy with the dream of let's double number of entities that we have inside ICT. Maybe in that moment it was a dream that was not quite ambitious to be achieved within a year. But you need to understand what is the right next step towards that dream. So how do we ensure that we get more expansions to become analysis? How do we ensure that we have the right support for the expansions in order to increase their contribution, increase their impact that they're having? And then last but definitely not the least, as Mauro was saying, our financial capacity has been growing. And we are in a situation where we can say that we are an organization that has stable financial resources. But now it's time for us to understand how do we best use those resources? How do we utilize those resources in the best possible way in order to grow the whole organization. And this is mainly what the direction of the next year is. And like, if you're asking me what is the role of this department, it is very clear about understanding how do we get the right membership, how do we get the right product strategy to grow products, and how do we leverage the resources that we have inside the organization in the best possible way, which should essentially lead us to this ideal state, which is where the members are the representation of the change that we want to make in the country, where our impact is increasing with the amount of experience that we are able to deliver, and that we are proud of our resources, size, and the unity of the entity, where we are all working together and contributing. So this have been mainly about what are the main dreams that I have for the organization, main ideas that I want to see happening throughout the next year. But of course, it is not about me, it is about the team that is going to be taking that forward. And for me, this is the thing that is essentially the most important, which is how do we not to only become ISEC to be proud of, but how do we build a team that everybody in the team can be proud of. And that is connected with these three main concepts. And I don't want to stay much here because I guess you may have a lot of questions about it, so we can go into that later. But there are three main things that I'm looking when it comes to the team selection. First thing is, I really want a team that is based on these three pillars that we want to see as a culture inside ISEC in Italy, because I do believe that MC team is the one that role models the culture in the best possible way. So I do want to see MC team that is driven by purpose, that is having strong values, and that is having the clear discipline in work, because this is the way that we can level up the organization, my belief. But then what I'm looking for from you inside this process is mainly to push yourself to understand the context and the challenges that the MC experience is going to bring you, and what is the context that you are willing to jump in, and how can you best help this context, and what are the challenges that you want to face, both in terms of what are the challenges that you want to face for the organization, but also what are the challenges that you want to face for yourself. And the best way to prepare yourself for the selection process is actually understanding those two things, understanding what is your context, what is your purpose, your values, and how are you building your own discipline, and then understanding what are the challenges that you want to guide the organization to, and what are the challenges that you want to guide yourself to on this journey. And then, last but not least, what is for me very important is that understanding that the best team often is not the group of best individuals, but group of people that work best together. So I'm really looking forward to understand what kind of environment do you dream of, what kind of team you would be proud of, and what kind of team and environment do you want to build for the next year. So mainly when it comes to what I'm expecting from the applicants in this process is to be very, very transparent, to be very, very honest, and to be challenging themselves to understand better the context and the why of being inside MCF. And bringing this, let's say, short presentation to the end, just want to spend a couple of moments addressing what are the conditions of being part of MC in Italy. These are some of the most important things that you should know. Being MC is a full-time job, which means that you are required to be full-time present in Milano and be available to work, to be from Monday to Friday, 40 hours per week in the office. Availability is expected throughout the whole year, so the transition dates, as stated in the booklet, transition should be starting around 15th of June, with a flexibility of 5 days minus or plus, depending on the IC dates and the planning schedules, excluding management team and external team, which may start the transitions earlier. But from that moment, availability is expected for the whole term, and it is expected that you are available to be in Milano working for IC for the duration of the whole year. When it comes to the, let's say, benefits that you have from being part of MC in Italy, so accommodation, food, transportation, and all the conferences / visits are provided and covered, which means that MC lives in 2 apartments in Milano, so all the accommodation costs and including internet are provided. MC takes care of the food, meaning that the budget for food is provided and that you are not expected to have additional costs regarding your nutrition during the MC term. Then the transportation is provided in terms of everybody gets the get the yearly subscription for the metro, so you do not have any additional expenses regarding that as well. And all of the MC related duties are financially covered. Besides that, there is a salary of 200 euros, which is for the extra costs or like things that you want to do in your free time. Like I have been part of the MC for 2 years, Mauro as well. So in general, the salary is enough for having a like decent full-time working life in Milano. Some of the prices you can see here, just you can orient yourself a bit better on like what are the main like expenses that you can see. So, like what is MC mostly buying? Like, a lot of coffee, a bit less of beer, a lot of pizza, and sometimes we go to cinema. And more or less on my behalf, that's it. Now I'm gonna give space to you guys to ask questions and get to know what are the challenges that you're facing so far with the application, what are the doubts that you have. So I'm gonna stop sharing the screen and we'll be me and Mauro going to go back here. So now you can ask questions both here in the chat and in YouTube. I'm going to try to parallelly track both. I hope you saw the whole presentation. I got the message from Rosanna that there was a issue with the presentation. I will anyway share the presentation right after with you, and I hope that you managed to get everything. So, okay, your questions. Maybe there are no questions. Anyone with a question?
Guys, any questions regarding, I don't know, a product, general strategy, things that happened in the past, MC conditions? Do you have to buy a towel? I don't know.
Va bene. If there are no questions, there is no question. Can you clarify, like, in which sense? In terms of the product, or more in terms of, like, is it in terms of, like, how do you approach membership?
Is it okay if I use the microphone?
Sí.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering, like, how can you have focus both on understanding how to exploit university markets better, because I think that still the university relation can be improved, and at the same time stay on the school, like I don't know, approaching young people from my school or from outside university, like what is the percentage of focus between these two, and if you are thinking about special structure about don't know, really kind of random question, but hope you can.
Okay. Like, I'm gonna try to answer it with more of the questions. logical. Anyway, like I do think that the key there is understanding what are you focusing on, because if you are trying to do everything, you're not doing anything. So if we talk about approaching non-university markets, you need to be very like methodical in understanding what kind of markets are we trying to tackle first, and what kind of strategy do we have towards tackling them. Like we need to understand. Of course, like still 90% of our performance, 95% of our performance is coming from the university markets. So of course, we're not going to go tomorrow and say no, we're not going to focus anymore on the university markets and go to the other places. But it's about like actually understanding one by one what are the markets that we should be tackling, and then trying to reach out and then seeing what works and what doesn't work. Like for example, we already started in the semester. We have a clear plan of like, approaching a couple of different markets, and then like understanding then okay, how does it work? Is it something that we should try to replicate in all the entity, or it's something that maybe needs more time, more studying? So it's like more of like this kind of, let's say, pilot approach, trying to understand that where do we go and how do we.
Just to add one thing, like I think the main issue is that we didn't understand that ISEC as an organization changed. And it changed 4 years ago. No? Not that it changed yesterday, it changed 4 years ago in the sense that we're not even a student-based organization anymore. However, everything that we run and how we run it is very, very dependent on the university. So it's not like killing university relations or anything. That's fundamental, of course, because most of the youth that we have is actually in universities in many cases. But it's how do we reach people that are not actually in universities? How do we change the way that we're setting ourselves? But still, if you listen to many members explaining ISEC, they're still thinking ISEC is a student-run organization. It's not true. That statement is not true anymore. So we just need to understand how to start structuring ISEC in a different way and using our infrastructure in a different way.
Good. I hope we answered. There is a question on YouTube from Mika. Why did OGB manage to grow and recover from the drop? Which was the strategy? Like, to be very honest, I think that there is a couple of things in my opinion. It's like I was B2C in that time, so kind of following the process. One key thing was first network management and understanding how to give the right mindset and attitude to the network when it comes to managing the product, because I think that was one of the biggest issues with the in that time. Was that like the network was very let's say detached and not believing in possibility of actually making a significant change. So what did make a difference was for sure the network management. And then the other thing was like very clear focus on what are the important things that need to happen. So like clear focus on international relations, clear focus on EPs processing and like measuring the right things in the process. We switched from realizations to tracking like applications, signups, accepted, approvals. So we started managing the process in a better way. And that was the initial thing that like, managed to understand and break down the process better, and that have brought us growth at least in 16, 17 term. And it was like also working in synergy with marketing, understanding what is the role of marketing, what should these people that we have in the organization do, and like how can they contribute and how do they align their strategy towards the product strategy, etc. But like I think that the main difference was like the mindset shift, driving the mindset shift inside the network, and then focusing on the right measures, understanding how to track properly the process.
Okay.
I hope we answered. Anyone else has a question? You can also put on your microphone in case. Okay. Anyway, just an explanation, like a bit of contextualization. Me and Mauro are traveling tomorrow to Romania for IPM, so we shall be available to answer if you have any questions through WhatsApp, but I do not know what's going to be the internet availability. So if you have any major questions that you need to be answered, I really prefer you to ask them now or send me a message right after the chat, because I really don't know how much of the internet availability there is going to be in the following days. And I guess there is going to be
Oh, there's no one.
There is no way. Excellent.
I have one. I have Sabajer.
Okay, anyway, yes. So in case, just make sure to reach out if you have any questions. If you don't have any other questions right now, it's been a pleasure spending this evening with you. I wish you a lot of good luck with writing applications, and see you soon as the process unfolds.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, guys.